freedom for me is kind of a mindset. Knowing all this stuff that I know now, everything is less chaotic. I know how much money we're going to make next year. I know how much money we're making off every job that goes out this door. That is freeing for me personally. I like knowing all the numbers now. It's not that I want to do them on a daily basis, but it makes me being able to go home early at night to see my family now. I can do that because I'm not worried about getting this job out the door to get paid for it, because I don't, what's coming in next or 10 other jobs going out.
This is Conquer Contractor Chaos, built for the contractor that's ready to run a business that works for them and creates the life they've been fighting for. Tune in to get the tools, systems, and strategies that are battle-proven to set you free. One move each episode, straight talk, things you can use today. Take your time back, be home for dinner, do the work, lead your crew, love your family, conquer the chaos.
All right, guys, thanks for joining in today. And today we're doing a contractor success story, which is currently in progress. The story is not shiny, it's not fake, and it wasn't done overnight. It's a real shop, real family, real chaos, and real progress. Welcome into the show. I've got Matt Pierce and Grace here with us, who run a cabinet shop in Illinois. And they've been in the coaching program for, what's it been, Matt? Like a year and a bit now?
Almost a couple of years, I think.
Almost
2 years in January, yeah. I believe.
2 years, geez. Okay. 2 years in January. So awesome. So been through the program, been with me for a while, lots of coaching calls, lots of wins, lots of failures, but making progress, right? Matt, before we get into like the lessons, right? Before we start talking about like, tactics and marketing and stuff like that, give the contractors who are listening to this episode like a 60-second, like who are you guys? What do you do? Why do you do it?
We are a small custom cabinet shop. I started in the trades right out of high school in custom stairs, and then I went to interior trim carpentry for many years, and which then turned into remodeling. And I always liked the cabinet side of things and the remodeling company I was running. So I had a buddy that built all my custom cabinets for me for many years. He decided to move up to Hayward, Wisconsin, and asked me if I'd be interested in buying his cabinet shop. I was ready for a change in what I was doing with the trim carpentry and remodeling and everything, and it just decided to take a run with it.
Nice. So you've seen it on all sides of the spectrum, from like that GC renovation side, and now you're a bit more concentrated on the cabinetry stuff. Super cool. Let me quickly ask Grace. So Grace, who are you? What is your role in the business, and what does a day-to-day look like for you?
I am the operations manager here. Do everything from keeping track of the projects, contact with designers and contractors, help run the shop with the guys, making sure they're doing everything, estimates. I mean, I do a lot.
Everything.
Yeah.
Grace does everything.
So Grace is the glue that holds the business together, which we're going to get into a little bit, like, how we got to the point where we have someone in that role, and, the differences that we see across the board with, are they in the shop? Are they in the office? What do they do? A little bit of sales. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I will say one thing is I think we're all pretty glad that Grace is with us, right?
Yes, we are.
Sure. So obviously, Matt, like you've went through this process of building this cabinetry business. What does home life look for you? What does home life look like for you? You have a family, wife, sports dad, right?
Yeah. My home life, like a work-life balance you're talking about, it's actually gotten better since I've gotten into the cabinetry. With doing the interior trim carpentry, we would just work until we got a project done. But now that I'm in a shop environment, and the guys are very regimented as far as when they get here and when they leave, that's helped me, take more control of my personal life and getting out of here. It's also, awarded me, financially to be able to do that a little bit more too. I do have a little bit of guilt because for 20 years I ran and ran and ran. Whereas now I'm, it's pretty much 7 to 5, or, I've got a very regimented week here, and it's nice. A
Yeah.
lot better work-life balance. It wasn't like that in the beginning. I've been doing this 7 years now, but it has, I'd say the past 2 years has got a lot better. So,
So what did that look like for you at home? Was it, a lot of missed time with the kids, vacations?
Yeah.
Were you getting many vacations, and how does that look like now?
yeah, it was weekends, working a lot of weekends, a lot of late nights. I mean, there's times I'd be here till, 1, 2 in the morning. Yes, vacations. I missed a lot of the kids' activities. My wife, drove the kids and everything, and they would go on vacations without me because I was working. But like I said, the past 2 years, I think that's changed a lot, and I certainly appreciate it.
Making up for lost time, right? And I mean, I don't want to start this off on like a sad note, but I think it is worth us giving a bit of a nod to the spouses and the kids out there whose dads are out hustling, trying to make it work, because yeah,
It will end.
yeah,
I'm sorry. You'll get there sometime. It will end. It will get better. And that's how what my thought process was too. Just keep plugging away and things will work itself out. And it has. And then you hire somebody like Grace and helps even more.
for sure. So what is the like composition of your shop look like, right? Like your square footage, how many guys, what positions, like what does the shop look like now?
We're kind of set up in different areas. So we've got, our door and drawer area. We've got somebody who builds face frames. We've got a guy sanding full time, and then we've got a full-time finishing guy. And then Grace and I will help with the assembly where the other guys are, all buried doing other stuff. The shop is about like 46 or 4,700 square feet. So we are tight on space. We do have a little office in here, which you can see, behind us here. But there's 4 guys in the shop plus me and Grace.
So the team's growing, right? And I think from our coaching calls, we're running out of space a little bit, which we'll get into. But the point is what you can achieve in a shop at that size is pretty significant, especially for you guys, right? Like you've came on, not even just from a revenue standpoint and how much you've been able to add with more strategic partnerships, but just the output that you get from your team with such a small space. Would it be safe to say that we're maximizing everything we can get out of this shop and this space and this team right now?
We are. I mean, back 5 years ago, I didn't think we'd ever be to the volume we're at now in this size shop. But, thanks to you and your help, we're maximizing it. I think we have a little bit more we can squeeze out of what we're doing here before we really need to move on to somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is what is a pain point a lot of guys feel, right? Like they'll either run out of space or capacity, even if you're someone who's working in a 2-car garage, and well, how many people can you really fit in there, before you get forced into a bigger space?
Yeah, but I think also really getting lean with things, you'd be surprised at how much you can get out of what you had to work with.
Yeah.
So, and we've done that. I mean, we've rearranged our shop several times. We've brought in new equipment and gotten rid of old equipment, and just, each step we've made it leaner, the way we operate and the processes and everything. So you can squeeze a lot out of a little space.
Yeah. Yeah. So for someone who's new, or like a newer cabinet maker or somebody who's getting into this or maybe hasn't heard of it, like what is lean? Can you give them a quick explanation? Like what does lean mean?
It's just processes, little examples like a tape measure. Have a guy have a tape measure on them all the time, so they're not going back to their workspace to do it. It's, we implemented walkie-talkies, so we're not wasting time. Guys are wasting time coming up to the office to ask questions. I even as recently bought a little fridge for the guys in the back because we noticed they were coming up here, 3, 4, 5 times a day to get water or pop or whatever on the fridge. So we put one back there, which, I figured would save per 2 guys 10 minutes a day, over a week's period. You got, almost an hour worth of time saved. So,
well, yeah. So yeah, it's that lean is a mindset, right? Like it's that mindset of continuous improvement and looking for little opportunities where you can, save time or minimize wastage. Definitely for anyone who is listening to this episode, if you've not kind of given yourself that lean training or looked into lean manufacturing, definitely jump in. We have a few modules on lean in our school course, which are pretty good. But just like Matt said, right, lean is different for everyone. It's this this mindset of that continuous improvement. Where can I shave off 10 minutes? How can I minimize that waste? And I think when you are operating in a small space where you do have to maximize your labor, your space, your materials, you need to adopt lean, Were you one of the original like Paul Akers lean guys, or did you discover lean a different way?
No, I think just working with you, and I listened to the ebook or whatever on a road trip not too long ago. But I've always had that mindset just with material usage and wastage and, what can we do with these extra rips? And I think listening to Paul Akers turned it in from just materials into everything else that we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be a fair assessment to say, like, structure, routine, systems, lean, that's been the key to you guys being able to grow your business, but not only grow it, but also profitably as well.
I think it's helped. Yes. I think there's more to it than just that.
So let's, before we get into like the tactics and the tips for these guys to go and put into their shop, like, let's talk about the chaos part, right? When we first met, right? Like your shop was growing, you had leads coming in, things were pretty chaotic. And I believe you were still pretty heavily in the shop, still on the tools, still on the bench. This is pre-Grace. What were some of the biggest fires that you were facing before we got started?
I think the biggest one we've always had an issue with is just timing, scheduling enough time to get a project done and getting it done in that time frame. A lot of it is just employee management, expectations. Yeah, it was more, that was the chaos we were dealing with. And then you had your normal, issues, quality stuff because of the chaos. But once you got the scheduling and the timing and everything figured out, the other stuff just kind of worked itself out.
Mm. Grace, you came in at that point where, we were starting to get a handle on the chaos, but obviously it was still kind of prevalent when you walked in. Like, what did you think when you first came into this business and seen, the inefficiencies and the team issues? Like, what were your first initial thoughts when we first got started?
My initial thoughts were, I would say, like, organization. I'm a very organized person myself, so I feel like I just saw, some even samples in the office. I saw them kind of just stacked up, and I wanted them to make them look nice, or it could be as simple as that. So just wanting, organized.
I think the first thing Grace worked on when she came here was like a labeling system for ordering or reordering screws and everything else we need, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I would totally agree. I would say that Grace is definitely the detail-oriented person, in our coaching and in this system. And even just the lesson of some things bringing in outside eyes, they see stuff that you block out, right? Because you've got other things going. And I think it was a tidbit for the guys listening. And with mine and Matt's coaching, I just go to Grace now if I need something done. If I need a spreadsheet done, or I need numbers, Grace is the one that we usually go to because she has that kind of analytical mind. And not to get too deep into like the predictive index profiles and how she's a scholar and you're like a captain or adventurer, but I think having that combo, when they say the brains of the operation, Grace definitely adds that like detail-oriented flair, keeping things in check. Matt's the ideas guy, the big moves guy. And I think the key lesson there is just like, try and get outside of yourselves and bring other eyes in to take a look. What would you guys say to that?
100%. It's hard to see at that moment because everything's in front of you. You're only focused on what's around you at that point in time. So even the general upgrades and moving equipment around and stuff, I didn't see that until somebody brought it to my attention. And same with like the office and the deep down stuff that Grace does. Like, I honestly, like everybody, other cabinet maker probably out there, we have no interest in doing this stuff. You come, like we talked about earlier today, you have to do it, and it's starting to grow on me, and it's fun. It's becoming more fun, and shifting out of, working actually in the shop. So,
yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's like we talked about on our call, and for anyone listening, we were talking about the kind of visual satisfaction of leaving the shop at the end of the day, seeing that product that you made compared to putting yourself in that entrepreneur mindset and starting to work more with numbers and analytics and spreadsheets and tools and software, it's never going to be the same kind of trade-off visually to you to say, hey, I felt like I did a good job today. And that's why a lot of us business owners, we throw ourselves on the tools because we tell ourselves that's where I can provide the highest amount of value to our business. And I think Matt's a walking case study of, if you can just get away from that and focus on the entrepreneur tasks, if you can carve time out to work on a business plan for 12 months down the road, instead of just trying to get through to today, that's where the magic really happens with a business.
And it takes a lot of off of your mind, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
Instead of having to worry
for
about
sure.
the day to day when money's coming in and all that stuff. Going back to lean real quick, I think the best lean thing we ever did was shop cleanout time. That, the emotion around that, when the guys come in on a Monday morning and the shop's clean, when you leave on a Friday afternoon and the shop's clean, you have a much better week. Everybody's happier. It makes a huge difference. Just
Absolutely.
having a
Absolutely.
clean shop.
Yeah. And obviously you've figured out a lot of things when it comes to pricing and having optimal gross profit and stuff like that. So that clean time is now being paid for. Whereas I think for a lot of other guys is they're saying, well, I can't pay someone to stand around and clean for an hour. Right.
Yeah. Yep. I
Yeah.
agree 100%. I mean, that's been my mindset this whole time with, our daily huddles we do, our Friday clean time. I've always worried about those 1, 2, 3 hours and we're going to lose a week in getting stuff done. But in reality, we're more profitable now and we're getting more work done because we're doing those steps.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for a shop that size, it doesn't take long for that
No.
shop to completely spiral out of control. Right.
No, not at all.
Yeah. 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 So one of the big things is like, especially for a lot of us, is we look at other cabinetry businesses, we look at other renovation businesses, and we go, oh, look, that guy's doing tons of revenue. They must have all their shit together, And it's that whole concept of just because the business looks great on the outside doesn't mean it's functional on the inside. And I think that's where that entrepreneur mindset has to start. And that's, similar mindset to almost every contractor I meet as they go, that guy's doing 25 million. That guy's doing 5 million. That guy's doing 3 million. But you're not seeing the whole picture. You're not seeing how things are on the inside. And I think for everyone, it's totally chaos until the owner steps up and starts to put the systems, the processes in place to start to, justify that 25 million that they're doing. I mean, I've met guys who are doing 3 million and they're making zero profit. What's the point? Right. So
I've met guys that are doing 10 million and are making nothing. They're going
100%. 100%, just because you're doing big revenue numbers doesn't mean that your business is viable. And Matt, you've done a really good job of you're not pushing to scale rapidly. In fact, our whole message here at Brave Academy isn't just going stack revenue in if you're not making profit. And you're doing some pretty good profit now, to the point where you're starting to see some of that coming back, that you can now invest strategically to grow your business the right way, which is cool. When was it? So when we got together, right? Obviously you were going through that chaos phase. What was it that made you, one, look for a coach? And what was the thing that made you pull the trigger to get help?
I think the biggest thing was I've just been doing this so long. And like you said, you're busy on the shop, you're busy doing everything that you notice. And I knew, the office side of things, the management side of things was really struggling. And I wanted to, tackle that. I don't know what the final moment was, why I ended up, I think I was just presented right place, right time. Your name popped up and thought it was an excellent way to go. The investment up front to pay for that scared me back then because we weren't making near as much money as we are now, but it was well worth, the cost of doing so.
For sure. So you signed up for coaching, you came in, we started working together one-on-one. What were the first couple of changes that you made in the business that actually moved the needle?
I think the first and the best we've done is the company values in our mission statement.
Oh, I love that.
That is Well, that gives me something to hold on to. It helps with hiring, firing. It helps with everything day to day. With the employees out there, everybody's on the same page. They know what I'm looking for on a daily basis. I'd say those two, and then the consumables.
Calculator.
And it's helped us the most too. So
I love how everybody downplays the consumables calculator, but you're my rock on that tool, and you're like, yeah, this thing makes a difference. And I think it's because it makes a difference at the volume that you're doing. It makes a big difference at the volume that you're doing. Whereas a lot of guys are like, it's just another tool there. But no, I love that you like the calculator.
when we first met, you said you'll be able to pay my fees by simply charging the consumables charge, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you weren't kidding.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just one like profit leak, right? Like that's just one little profit leak that nobody knows about. Nobody's paying attention to it. And we tell ourselves, we can't charge the customer for that, right? Or we can't bill for this time or that time. And I mean, at the end of the day, your business, somebody has to pay for it. And if it's not the customer, or it's not the builder, or it's not the designer, is you yourself, right? It's coming out of your dividend check, or it's coming out of your future growth fund. No, I'm glad that you found value. And for anybody who wants access to that tool, you can join our school course. I'll post a link to the school course in the comments of the show. Click on that. It'll take you to our kind of learning hub. Matt, you've not been on school too much, but Grace, are you enjoying being in school? You find that valuable?
Yeah, I do love the school platform. It's very valuable and has so many templates. It even helps, those who are getting into AI and, ChatGPT. There's question prompts there that can help guide you through things for the business, spreadsheets, calculators, all of it. It's fantastic to have ready for you.
Yeah. It's the way that I built school was really the tool that I wish I'd had when I was growing my business, right? For me, I didn't have ChatGPT. I couldn't just type in and have a computer make an employee, document for me or a subject. It was all typed out by hand. So there's really no excuses these days when it comes to this stuff.
I mean, a lot of things like SOPs that we worked on with you. I mean, I was pretty ignorant back when I first started. I wish I would have known all this stuff 20 years ago. I probably wouldn't have been retired by now. But just all those little things, the SOPs, all the P&L that we're doing now, the GPM, like that was huge too, just tracking all that stuff.
For sure. Yeah, knowing your numbers is kind of at the base level of our coaching, is giving you the ability to see numbers, not feelings, right? Like those facts, not feelings when it comes to running your business. In saying that, Matt, right? Like, so we got started, you've started to implement a couple of things. What was one of the big things that you realized you had to stop doing?
I'm going to have to think on this for a little bit.
In terms of stop doing to make things better?
Yeah, exactly. Like, where was your priority set where maybe, you had to get rid of that or ditch that task or something that you were doing that you were like, I can't fix this until I get this off my plate?
I think the biggest thing, honestly, was my hiring process. When I hired people, I had no idea what I was doing. And that led to chaos in the shop and not having SOPs, to guide these, an onboarding process to guide these new employees was probably the biggest thing. I was terrible in hiring people, absolutely atrocious. So
I remember going through a few guys in the beginning, I remember going through I think it was like 2 or 3 employees over the course of 3 or 4 months where it was, we hired them, we didn't like them, they didn't fit. And I think what you said about core values specifically, right? Like just knowing your core values, having them listed out, and the decisions of who you let into your tribe are huge, right? They're massive straight off the bat. Yeah.
By far.
And I think it's also worth mentioning that we weren't looking to add, complex spreadsheets or new tools or any advice that you didn't need at the time. It was mostly like, let's set some ground rules, right? Let's just say, here's our fine lines in the sand of how we bring people on, how we market our business, who we're selling these products to, what we're selling to these people, right? Like we just clearly kind of define these lines. And I think for a lot of guys is they go, I don't want to have this routine and structure. I don't want to have this system. I just want to be able to do what I want, when I want, work with who I want, and that's freedom. They think of freedom as being no rules whatsoever. Like, what would you say for that?
I think it's quite the opposite. I think freedom for me is kind of a mindset, knowing all this stuff that I know now. Everything is less chaotic. I know how much money we're going to make next year. I know how much money we're making off every job that goes out this door. That is freeing for me personally. I like knowing all the numbers now. It's not that I want to do them on a daily basis, but it makes me being able to go home early at night to see my family now. I can do that because I'm not worried about getting this job out the door to get paid for it, because I don't, what's coming in next, or 10 other jobs going out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What does your time commitment look like in the actual shop now, Matt? Because you kind of touched on this at the start of the call, where you said like, hey, we jump in when we're kind of needed. Like, if you could summarize that into like, how many hours a week are you in the shop actually producing cabinet work at this point now?
Not a lot, unless we get a really big job and the guys, some help out there. A week like this week, we won't be out there at all, hardly. I like getting up once in a while and walking out there just to see what's going on.
Right.
But I'd say maybe an hour or so a week at this point.
Yeah. And so what do you do with that time nowadays? Now that you've gotten all that time back out of the shop, like, what are you doing with your time now? What's your role and your function in the business?
I like to call and talk to people. When I order materials, I like talking to my vendors, and we'll negotiate once in a while with vendors. I do all the drawing still. So I'm doing the drawing and sending stuff to CNC, that kind of thing. We'll work on numbers and estimates together. Just client relations.
Yeah.
Selling.
So you're predominantly like the high ticket sales guy, the designer, greasing the wheels, greasing some palms kind of thing, right? Negotiating your next set of contracts, working with your vendors. Cool.
Yeah.
And then Grace, from an operations standpoint, what are the things that you're working on in the business? Like, what are your biggest priority tasks that you're doing?
If we're going from currently, priority is just getting all these processes, the SOPs, there's an SOP for anything you can think of. Onboarding processes, having everything prepared for, if positions were to change, hiring a new position, that we're ready and that we can make sure that they are successful here.
So you're building the infrastructure for scale, right? Yeah, I like that.
And let me say, it takes a lot of time to do all that. Once you really dig into the weeds on this SOP stuff and processes and everything, it takes a lot. There's a lot of processes that, we still haven't completed, but that can be put into a business at even our size, which is very comforting. It's a lot of work up front, but once it's done, it's done. You're just modifying from that point. But to bring somebody in, to hire somebody, or to move somebody around here to a different position, like, everything's already written, everything's done. So it makes that process a lot easier.
So more rules, more structure. Yeah.
Sorry. To really vision it, what I did was I listed everything that I personally do in a day or a few days, went through it and realized which things that I do need SOPs. How can I, put some together that don't need to be all different tasks, stuff like that. So it really helps break down the position that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And going into even hiring somebody new, if you have the process all down, I feel like you're really just looking for the person that meets your company values, and you can teach them anything.
Totally. Yeah, it's hire for attitude, train for skill, right? Speak to that for a second, Matt, because obviously, there's not as many younger people getting into the trades now. What does recruitment look like for you where you are? And is there any big kind of conclusions you've made about hiring experienced guys versus bringing in new people and then giving them that skill set?
I've always been a fan of hiring somebody that doesn't know how to do what we're doing and teaching them, just because, the teach an old dog new tricks idea. But yeah, so I've always wanted to bring younger people in here just to keep the culture alive and fun and entertaining around here as well. I haven't hired too many already seasoned guys over the years. but I feel like I've had the best luck with younger people that meet our company values and training them to do the position.
For sure.
Hence,
Yeah. And
Grace
it's
right
sad
here.
that's, yeah, 100%. Because Grace, like, if you don't mind, like, you're still in your 20s, Grace, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you're obviously, for you, the people that you're working with are, also in that age range as well. And then you guys are learning a skill too, right? You're learning a new skill, how to run a business. And from coast to coast, from all of the clients that I work with, it's always the same problem. It's either we've got guys on the market, but none of them are like, they have bad habits that they've learned elsewhere. And it's too much work to hire someone from scratch and train them from brand new. And it's a kind of sad matter of fact that you have to make one of those choices. You either take someone and inherit the bad habits that they learned at another shop, or you make the investment and you hire someone from scratch. But like you said, those SOPs help, right? It helps keep things clear, defined, what you need to learn, when you need to learn it, how you're going to learn it, and who you're going to learn it from. Is just, again, creating that structure. One of the questions I have for you guys, and this is one that, when we say the words SOPs, some people have a light bulb go off, but for the majority of guys, they go, well, I can't afford to sit and write SOPs. Like, what's the value? What would you say to those people? The ones who are like, I'm not going to sit and make all those SOPs. It would take too long.
If I had to jump in, I would say the value is the training process. I think without SOPs, it's gonna, you could take a 3-month train. It would probably take a 6 months to train this person, and you're not going to get it perfectly right, without an SOP, because you're just going off of what you know and what you remember. Whereas an SOP, it's very detailed. I mean, we've got it laid out, 1, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, goals for them to achieve, where they should be at that point in time. It's hard to just train that off of memory.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think the other part to that too is when you're making those SOPs is the nuance that you've seen over the years as well, right? Like, how do you remember every little nuance to every single little project you've ever done, unless you're clearly documenting it out and saying, hey, watch out for this. This sounds great in theory, but watch out for this one little thing. But yeah, let's, this, and like you said, it never ends, right? It never ends. So, 2+ million in revenue coming is on the docket, but you don't have a CNC machine.
We do not.
How did that work?
What do you think? How does that work? We've got business partners that we work with and to do all of our CNC cutting, which has worked out really well. It was my introduction to CNC without having to buy one and do all the learning on my own dime. I found experienced guys who do a really good job cutting parts for us. And that has really elevated us to the next level.
So if there's a guy out there that's maybe thinking, hey, like my next, I can't grow because I don't have a CNC, you would say just start outsourcing.
Yes, 100%. 100% agree. It saved me a huge learning curve, not having an expensive machine like that sitting around here and going to somebody else's shop to help me learn in our drawing software how to send it to the CNC, make sure stuff get cut right. And I had somebody else's eye on it when parts were getting cut that knew what they were supposed to look like when anytime we ran into an issue.
Gotcha. So
the cost of it would be cheaper to have my own CNC, but the amount of work we can do with outsourcing it, I don't think we could do if we had our own CNC here.
Right. So what is that natural point where you're going to decide like, hey, it's time for a CNC? Is it literally just this, is it just the space restriction for now? Or is like, have you been wanting one for a while? Cause I mean, from our calls, like you guys are healthy from a gross profit standpoint on each of your jobs, which a lot of people would argue, I can't get my prices cheap enough with a vendor or someone cutting my parts for me. Like how is it that you guys are still able to carve out like a pretty decent gross profit margin while you're subcontracting out that work? How do you do that?
I think again, it's negotiating prices with the CNC vendors. I was worried about that as well, but I think a lot of it just has to do with timing. The biggest thing, we could do 2 to 3 jobs in the time we were doing one job, manually processing all the parts. But I think it's just negotiating with the vendors to get that price right where it works for you and it works for them to help on the cost of it. So
Gotcha.
when I first saw, what they were charging to do this, it scared me. But once we got into it, it saved us a lot of time in the shop here that easily made up for paying a vendor to cut everything for us.
I would 100%. I would 100%. And it's kind of similar to installers as well, right? Like it seems like there's a lot of guys who just want to do the cutting part because they have the equipment and they need to pay that off, right? Like they've got,
Yes.
like that's the part that's easy for them. They don't necessarily want to be a fully fledged cabinet maker and installer. So you
Yes.
guys do have options for outsourcing your CNC work, outsourcing your finishing, outsourcing your install. Definitely, if you want it to be more, if you want it to be more fluid with how you run your projects, look at those areas, right? Well, are we great at install? And if the answer is no, outsource it.
Yeah.
Could we produce more volume if we outsource the CNC work? Yes, more than likely, right? Just outsource it. And that gives you the ability to concentrate on one area, right? Like I can just build my processes and build my systems just for the part that we're doing, and we're going to outsource this stuff outside. So if there's anyone that's listening to this episode and you're thinking, hey, how can I scale or how can I become more profitable? Maybe look at the areas of the business that are causing you not to be profitable or the things that are holding you back from scaling because you can't produce enough volume. And maybe that's the install, maybe that's the CNC work, for sure. And one of the things I really love about the cabinet industry is that everybody is out there to help each other, right? Like everyone does, and it's super rare across the board from all trades. Cabinet makers and architectural millwork guys are happy to help other people in the industry. They want that work. So reach out. Just curious, Matt, like if you were looking for a vendor to do your install or someone to do your cutting for you, like where would you go looking? How would you find that person?
There's, great resources on Facebook. There's a couple of great cabinet groups I belonged to for a couple of years, and there's some really good people on there. And like Lee said, everybody is willing to help. Very rarely do you run into somebody that's a jerk on any of those groups. So it's a great group of people. And Facebook, I don't want to throw, the groups out there, but Facebook's a great resource to connect with these guys. They do there's a lot of events all over the U.S. too that a lot of these guys meet up at. It's great to talk with other cabinet makers, just to see what they're doing versus what you're doing, and helps build confidence.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of work out there for everyone right now, and if you've got the right motivations and you need some help, speak up. Like Matt said, those events are great. Like I'll be at IWF next year. I'll be at Closet Expo down in Palm Springs. Like Matt, you'll probably be going down to some of these shows as well. And to give a little nod to our homies, Phil Anton, Nick Frost, these guys are at these events as well. That's the question, right? Like these guys want to help for sure.
Yes, they do. So both those guys have helped me a lot over the years here. They've been great mentors, and I talked to Phil and Dale. So.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I don't know how. I think he must have 3 phones and 5 sets of hands to be able to text everyone back and talk to everyone the way he does. But there's people here to help, right? Like there's infinite options specifically for cabinet makers, guys who want to help, guys who are providing value. Yeah, Facebook is a really good place to start. I want to touch on something else that's pretty rare, and it's kind of like specific to you guys. But you've kind of figured out a way to start to sell across state lines, right? Because you guys are in Illinois, but you're doing a bunch of work down in Florida. How are you building relationships like that? Like how did that happen for you?
That was a local designer that we were doing work for that happened to get in with an architect builder down in the Florida area. And we just, continued working with them, built a relationship, gone from there. So I think if you look at any of the really big companies, they got a main manufacturing hub and then they ship all over the U.S. So that was kind of my initial dream.
Right.
Not just be limited to the area that I live in.
For sure. Yeah, I would totally agree. But you did touch on something there that was interesting, was you said we partnered up with a designer. And this is something that we talked about in our coaching calls pretty early, right? Like great, went through the gauntlet of having to make some awkward phone calls. But, if you could only do one kind of tactic to get clients like that, you know, moving forward? If there was only one thing you could do, like what would it be to build relationships like that? Who would you be calling?
Like somebody specific who I'd be calling?
Yeah, like would you kind of prioritize designers over builders? Would you, you know, what kind of work do you want more of, and what
For
kind of work do you want less of?
for the market, I had been in the retail business long enough that I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. I like what we have set out. The designers, the architects, they send us all the information. We build what they spec out. That's kind of how I wanted to work. So yeah, I mean, we just honestly, I did an event about 7 years ago where we invited a bunch of designers and builders and stuff to come in. Like we made candles and had wine or something at a local company here, and it's taken off since then. We've built some great relationships with the designers we work with, and it's just over time you'll work away from some of them and you'll get closer to other ones. You'll find the right clientele for you, the designers who are doing the right projects that work for you, and it just kind of all evolves from there.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So it's about putting yourself in the same room with the people who are working with the types of projects that you want, right? Designers, builders, you know, architects, that kind of thing. I like
Correct.
that. You know, and obviously like you're building those relationships, you're shaking those hands, and then as being passed, you know, the actual operational part is passed on to Grace and her team at that point. So Grace, like what do you do to protect those relationships? Like how important are those to you and your team? Like what's your take on working with designers rather than say homeowners, for example?
It's very important to keep the relationships that Matt has created with these designers and builders. They come to me when they want projects estimated, quoted. So it's up to me to talk them through it, the steps that it takes, giving them the estimate, answering any questions that they might have, you know, advice on changing something, anything. They're coming to me about that. So it's really important to, you know, talk to them about it.
I think the biggest thing is communication.
Yeah.
The number of years I've been doing this, I would rather lose money than to disappoint a customer. And I say that because I've got great customers. I know there's the horrible customers out there. These aren't mine. But I've always been very willing to help and go outside of the norm to make their projects complete and make them exactly what they want them. So Grace will get phone calls a lot, just little things. It's a little details, you know, can we do this crown or this here or that there? And I'll find a way to make it work. I'd like to go above and beyond for my clients. And I think that's why they keep coming back. So, and Grace is great having her here. She's very similar to myself. She knows what I want and she knows what the customers want as well. And she's very friendly, very personable on the phones. So it's great having her talk to them.
For sure. And I think the big lesson here is that, you know, just because we're telling you like, hey, go build relationships with designers, put yourself in that similar room, you know, that they're going to be at these events, or have them come into your shop and see how it's made, make an event out of it. But I think what's more important is not just creating hype in the beginning of the relationship, actually having people, systems, and structure to be able to white glove them once they come into your pipeline, right? Once they give you that first job, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you fake it till you make it.
You fake it till you make it, for sure. For sure. And I think a lot of it's just that research phase, right? Like if you're going to have the audacity to call someone up who's already established, they have their processes, they're already doing a great job for their client. You know, if you're going to have the audacity to call them out of the blue, you'd be as well asking the question like, hey, what would you need to see from me if we were to do this together? Like, what do you want to see from me? These people will tell you. They will tell you exactly what they need to see in order to start giving you projects. But everybody jumps straight in with the sale. They never go, what do I need to do to be ready for this? You know?
Yeah.
And I think personally, you know, like that's one of the biggest downfalls of people who get into businesses is they go, I just need the money. They look at clients like just a way to make money. Whereas they don't say, hey, if I create an experience that enhances people's lives, that, you know, even like on our strat call when we said, hey, like you're not a cabinet maker, you're someone who is making somebody's dream kitchen come to life. The kitchen is the heart of the home. That's where people gather and they make meals and they come together, and you get to be a part of that. It's not just about the paycheck, right? You're
And that's
helping
part of our
someone.
mission statement that's hanging
Yeah.
out of in our shop that you guys see every day when they walk in here. So they serve, they have a purpose when they're here. It's not just building boxes. So
Yeah.
it's telling them
Which-
what we do on a daily basis.
And I totally understand for guys who are in that manufacturing process. They stay in their shop, they never meet the customer, they never get to meet the interior designer. You know, as far as they're aware, all they have to do is put boxes together, or they have to finish something. They're not exactly thinking, hey, I'm contributing to somebody's dream here. I'm contributing to making that interior designer's life easier by doing a good job or by doing that quality control check. And I think that's super important. You know, and that was even a big eye-opening moment for you when we first kicked things off, and we said, hey, hold on a minute, you're not just making copy. This is what you're doing, you know? And you were like, yeah. And I remember that. I remember that vividly 2 years ago, which is super cool to get to this point now.
I think it's really important that, like, also too, it's up to us to make it known to the guys who are in the shop how important these designers are that we work with, stuff like that. That way it becomes, you know, important to them to know that the quality that's going out the door, and that, you know, we have these relationships and that they want to keep everything as nice as possible.
And
Right.
I give them a lot of feedback because we get a lot of feedback from our customers, and I like to relay that to the guys in the shop so they know it's not, you know, they're doing this for a reason. So
For sure. Yeah.
Very motivating.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like again, it's just structure. We need to have this infinite feedback loop where we're always self-criticizing ourselves and how we performed yesterday. You know, when I jump into a coaching call with somebody new and they start rambling off about, oh, the competition, my competition is this, my competition is that. Typically I'll say the only competition you have is yourself and the work that you did yesterday. That's it.
Yeah.
Be better than you were yesterday and you'll go places. You'll go places for sure.
Yep.
I want to get into, kind of biggest learning and advice from you, Matt, right? Because not only are you a growing shop, like I think a lot of people, even in the industry, they know who you are. They know that you're someone who doesn't bullshit. They know that you're someone that kind of, you've got a pretty good screen for for BS, I would say. Like for you personally, like what have been the 3 biggest things that you've learned in 2025 that are going to help you in 2026?
I think just leadership skills is one of them. Sorry. I was never much of a leader up until I'd say I met you or 2 years ago. I was always very confident in what I'm doing, but for me to teach people and to actually lead a crew of people, it was difficult to learn. I'd say that's my biggest one. It's just a continued growth of leadership. I want to be somebody that everybody out in my shop looks up to or looks forward to seeing in the morning. Whereas 10 years ago, I was probably much like a lot of you guys out there. You know, we're screamers. We got that. So we thought the right thing to do was to yell at people, but it's not. I've learned that nothing about yelling motivates anybody. So you're going to have to guide me in the other 2, Lee.
I think that's huge, though. I definitely think you've came along a lot as a leader, but it's a mindset that starts internally, and you've been very open to saying, hey, like, I don't know a lot about this, and, maybe you have just had a bad track record of having people on your team that, maybe they didn't perform, and that's put a bad taste in your mouth when it comes to people. But you've seen the structure, you've seen the way that you guys conduct your business nowadays, and I think that inspires people below you, which is leadership, right?
Yeah.
Big difference between leadership and management. I would definitely say you've came along quite a lot as a leader, and obviously, you're leading Grace, and Grace is leading a team now. For someone who's in their 20s, learning how to lead a team of 4 or 5 guys, especially in a predominantly male-driven industry, I think that's pretty freaking inspiring. I think that's super cool, I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
You guys have done a
much.
lot. Yeah, you've done a lot that's gonna serve you next year, right? Like you've got better pricing discipline now. You're looking at your lives more holistically, right? Like where you see the value that having that family time gives back to you in your business, right? Like when you feel like you're doing well as a dad and as a husband, or when you feel like you're eating clean or you've been to the gym, you know, like that's making you a better leader in the business as well. And I think that was one of the big things that we really had to kind of break your mind about, was just because you're in the shop doesn't mean you're providing value. Just because you're in the building doesn't mean that you're helping, you know. And I think that was a big one, getting you out of that. Confidence in your decisions, you know, taking ownership for the team. And I think one of the biggest one was the consistent rhythms, right? Like you guys are doing that team huddle now every morning where you are communicating, right? Like how has that helped?
That helps with every day, all the day-to-day schedule. It also helps with less questions being asked about, you know, what do I do next? What's more important than this? You know, things like that. It helps so much. Even culture, like every day I say what national day it is to the guys, just because, you know, then it sparks a conversation real quick before we all go back to work. And, you know, it's sometimes it's really interesting to hear, you know, so just culture, day-to-day schedule, you know, important things like that.
Yeah, and just a quick, like, you know, somebody will say if they had something good happen to them, or, you know, it just lifts everybody's spirits throughout the day into the morning. It's a great way to kick off the morning.
For sure. And speaking of spirits, if you do like a tartan day or a Robbie Burns day, make sure you pour a little whiskey out on the floor for me somewhere in the shop, you know.
Yesterday was National Sardine Day or something, and one of our guys actually said, "That's awesome." So we have a sardine fan that works here.
Yeah, and it comes back to exactly what you guys said, right? Don't take yourselves and your business so seriously. You know, have fun with it. There's no point in doing anything if we're not going to have fun, you know? And if you're feeling like you're stuck in that chaos mode, you know, and you have to be serious and you have to shout at your guys and you know, you're always stressed out. Well, it's all formula. It's all systems and processes that you've not, you know, pulled your head out the sand to go fix yet. But will give you the ability to start enjoying your business and having fun with it. And I will say one thing there is people make it fun. Other people make it fun. You know, if you're someone who keeps telling themselves, hey, like, I'm the only one who can do this because I'm the best, you know, cabinet maker or best designer. Like, who cares, man? Like, bring people in, give them skill sets, you know, let them have fun, give them opportunities for their family. And I would argue that there's nothing more fulfilling to both you and them than giving someone else the opportunity, right?
Yeah. I don't want to be the best.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the best, but I want to have 5 guys that work for me that are the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to be a leader that can coach them guys to accomplish that.
Of course. Of course. This is why I say I have the best job in the world, right? I have the best job of the world, but a big part of it is who I let into this program, who I let into this tribe, and who I decide to spend my time with. You know, and it's hard, right? You've got Zoom, you're on Zoom all day, every day, boring, right? I don't get to turn around and look at my cabinet shop, right? Or go shoot the shit with the boys after, you know? But like I said, it's the people that you let into your businesses and into your life that determine, will an SOP be followed? Will core values be shown throughout the day? You know, will we have fun? It's the people that you bring in. And like you said, there's been a big kind of process in how we vet people to get into our tribe nowadays, in the shop specifically. And I think once you learn that skill, you know, scaling up from here becomes fairly easy. So that's the big one, right? Like we're not looking for rapid growth. We're looking for control, systemized, you know, process driven businesses that we have fun while we're building them, right? It should be fun. I want to get into, like, you know, just to start wrapping things up here, but one thing I noted about you, Matt, back when you first reached out about like getting into coaching was you were very skeptical, right? You came to the calls, you asked for testimonials, you asked for phone numbers to speak to people. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about jumping in with Brave Academy and joining our program? Like, what would be something that you would tell them?
Quite honestly, I've talked to several of them already. For some reason, I get reached out to when they're on the fence about leave. But I don't know. I mean, it's just helped me grow as an owner, as a leader, financially. It's helped me get to places I didn't think I'd ever be. I thought, you know, all my 25 years of doing this, not just cabinetry, but every day was a struggle. And I'm finally at a place where there is peace. There is freedom. I don't worry near as much as I used to. I'm confident in what we're doing, the product we're producing, and I'd say the majority of that, is kudos to you. You've helped me get there, and you've helped Grace a lot too. You've helped me teach Grace a lot. The money part, like I said in the beginning, is a little scary at first, but your value, within even the first 3 to 6 months, tenfold, it more than paid for itself, the knowledge that you taught us. So,
Yeah. You guys have been fantastic members of the program. You guys have done the work in the background. You adapted when things got tough. You have been open to coaching. And I would say that is that's why you're successful, right? The reason you guys have had so much success is nothing to do with me. I just keep your eyes pointed in the right direction. It's all down to your attitude, your coachability, and then your commitment to actually doing the work, even though for a lot of it, it seems like, it might seem pointless at the time, but you see the benefit 2 months later or 3 months later, and it was having that belief, right? Matt, Grace, thank you for being open and coming on the show today to share your story. And if you're a contractor who's listening to this show, this is what happens when you stop running your company on just pure hustle and grit alone, right? Matt's story isn't special because he's a unicorn. It's special because he did the boring reps, right? He was putting the work in weekly, and it's just stacked over time. He's, taken risks to hire people well before he needed them and had faith in the people that he's hired. We're going to link Matt back into the show notes here. If Matt's journey hits home, take one thing from today's podcast and try and install it this week. And if it could be one thing, Matt, to you, what would be the one thing that you would tell everybody to go and do today after listening to this?
it would be, I think, the consumables charge. Get a charge for all that sandpaper and toilet paper and all that stuff. I think, if I had to close out on something with, the younger guys, the guys that are just starting out, it does pay off. It does work out. You will grow daily. Pay attention to the numbers and not so much the money, but just where the money's going, your GPM, because that will tell you a lot. I've been doing this a very long time. And the past 2 years have been the best 2 years out of my 25 years doing this. I've learned more in those 2 years than I've learned in 25 years. But I'm excited about where we're going and where this is all going to take us. And thank you for all the help you've given us too. You've been a great mentor and great leader to us as well.
Yeah, it's been my absolute pleasure. And guys, if you want the same training that Matt and Grace have went through, if you want the spreadsheets, the tools, we have a very easy entry option, which is our school course. You get access to our tools and our resources. Our community is in there with our members who are in the program. And we even do, Q&A sessions, and we throw in random events all the time. So definitely sign up for the school course if you're looking for an easy way to get into coaching without having the full commitment of doing one-to-one. Some guys just aren't ready for one-to-one. Some of you need to feel the pain before you can appreciate the coaching. Some of you need to go through cash flow issues or people issues or marketing issues before you learn, hey, I need help on this. So, we're not going to push you into a coaching program straight off the bat. Come and join the community first. Chat with guys who have been in the same position as you are right now in the skill community. There will be a link in the show notes below. Until the next time, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks, Slade.